Hi, I'm Josh from eSpares. For many people, Christmas can be a busy and stressful time of year, not just on the day itself, but also in the weeks leading up to it. So in this video, I'm going to show you some of the checks and maintenance you can perform in the appliances around your home to avoid any of those Christmas nightmares and making sure that the big day goes down without a hitch. Now, arguably, one of the most important appliances at Christmas is your cooker. If you develop a problem with the cooker, it's going to cause a big issue on the day. One of the first things you need to check in the cooker is that the fan is functioning correctly. When you first turn the fan oven on, it should start spinning quite quickly and there shouldn't be too much excess noise whilst it's spinning. So if we just turn this one on, so as you can hear, that started spinning quite quickly and it's not producing too much noise either, so that would indicate that the fan is working properly. Also, when you turn the fan off, it should continue to spin for a short while afterwards. So if I just turn this fan off, so as you could see, that fan continued to spin for a while after I'd switched it off. So that would indicate that this fan is working fine. One of the other problems that can be caused by the fan not functioning properly is that the elements surrounding it can overheat and actually fail. And of course, you don't want that to happen in your oven. So if you are noticing any of these symptoms, if the fan is taking a while to start spinning, or if it's causing any excess noise while it is spinning, then it's probably a good idea to replace it before it fails completely. And you can see how to do that in another eSpares video. Now, it may be the case in your fan oven that it's also fitted with another fan. Now, this is a cooling fan, and that's designed to keep these controls here nice and cool after you switch the fan oven off and while it's still hot. So if after you've switched the fan oven off, you're hearing any excess noise coming from the cooling fan, then again, it's a good idea to replace it before it fails. And you can see how to do that in another eSpares video. Now, when you've checked the fans in your oven, it's time to move on to the door and the seal. When you close the door, it should be nice and solid. There shouldn't be any extra movement from it. But as you can see on this oven, even with the door closed, I can still move it backwards and forwards. Now, the problem with that is that it means the door isn't closing properly, so it's going to let heat out of the oven, and that's going to cause a problem when you're cooking food in it. Now, that would point to a problem with the hinges, and obviously you'll need to replace them. Now, once you've checked the hinges, just open the door up and have a look at the seal that goes around the outside of the oven cavity. Now, this seal is held on by tension at the corners, so it may well be loose in between, but just have a look for any tears or perforations and make sure that the rubber isn't distorted in any way. As we have a look around this seal, it looks to be in pretty good condition, so in this case, we'll just need to replace the hinges on the door. Now, a good tip for when you're using your fan oven is to leave the circulation fan running for just a couple of minutes after you've finished cooking with the temperature turned down to minimum in the oven. And this just helps to disperse the heat that's in the oven and stop the element from overheating, which will help to prolong its life. Now, while we're on the subject of cookers, it's also a good idea to take a look at your hob. It may be that previously you've had a ring fail on the hob and you've managed to cope without it, but at Christmas, when you're cooking much larger amounts of food, you're going to need to have all of those hob rings available. So if you have had one fail, now is a great time to get it replaced and get them all working again. Now, after you've had a look at the cooker and hob, the next appliances to take a look at are your fridge and freezer. At Christmas, we tend to buy too much food and don't have enough space for it. So before you do your big Christmas shop, try to run down the contents of your freezer as much as possible. This is a good opportunity to go through and find anything that's getting quite old or what might be considered to be past its best. And you can decide whether you're going to eat it or chuck it out. And you can also clear the freezer out completely and defrost it, and that's going to keep it working at its best. Same again with your fridge. Just go through it and have a look for anything that might be getting a bit old that you can get rid of. If there are any broken shelves or drawers in there, now's a great time to replace them. Or if you're looking for some additional shelf space, you might want to consider adding in an extra shelf or a bottle rack for keeping your wine nice and chilled. And of course, all of those are available from eSpares. If your fridge is like this one and it has a water and ice dispenser, you might want to consider changing the water filter as well, as you use this more around Christmas for gatherings and parties. One final word about your fridge and freezer. As with your cooker, just check that the door seal is sealing properly. If there are any holes or gaps, it's going to let the cold air out. You can check if the seal is working just by using a piece of paper and inserting it between the seal and the door. Now, if the paper isn't held in place, that would indicate that the seal isn't working properly and you're going to need to fix it. Now, in some cases, you can rectify the issue just by warming the seal up with a hairdryer, and this softens the rubber and helps it to expand into the gap. However, if the seal is in especially bad condition, it's much better to just replace the whole thing, and you can see how to do that in another eSpares video. Now, over the Christmas period, you may be placing a greater demand on your dishwasher, so there are a few checks you can go through to make sure it's functioning at its best. If I try to pull the bottom tray out of the dishwasher, you can see that it's dropping down, and the reason for that is that it's lost a wheel on the side. Now, it's quite common for wheels to fall off the tray or for them to crack. So if that's happened on yours, it's a good idea to replace it, especially when the tray is loaded up. It can be quite difficult to pull it in and out of the appliance. Also, have a look at the bottom of the cutlery basket for any holes or damage. If there are any holes, the cutlery can actually fall through and block the bottom spray arm, which will stop it from turning, and this will affect the cleaning efficiency of the dishwasher. Also, have a look in the filters and remove any debris or blockages in there which are likely to cause a problem, and make sure that the rinse aid and the salt are kept topped up in the dishwasher as well. Now, it's a good idea, especially if you haven't used your dishwasher for a while, to run a cleaner through it, such as the eSpares limescale and detergent remover, and this is really good for just flushing the system and making sure that it's nice and clear. And you can see some other tips on how to get your dishwasher cleaning more effectively in another eSpares video. Now, at Christmas, you may find yourself using those smaller kitchen appliances that you wouldn't normally use that much throughout the rest of the year. If you have a food mixer or a liquidizer, if the bowl is cracked, you might want to consider replacing that. Or if you've got any worn or misplaced items, such as the beaters or any other attachments, you can replace those as well. If you have a bread maker, you might want to consider replacing the loaf tin if that's getting a bit old. And for anything else, such as lids, attachments and other spares for small kitchen appliances, these are all available on the eSpares website. Now, over Christmas, many people have friends and family to come and stay, and if this is the case for you, then you may find yourself using your washing machine and your tumble dryer more than usual. If there are any squeaks or rattles or other unusual noises coming from either appliance, then that usually indicates the presence of a worn part, and you need to track down the source of that noise and replace the part before it fails completely. If there are any cracked drawers or flaps on either appliance, those can be easily replaced with spares from the eSpares website, and that just makes it easier to load and use the appliance properly. Just have a check of the filters in the tumble dryer and make sure those aren't blocked up with too much fluff. Just make sure those are nice and clear. And it's also a good idea to put your washing machine onto a service wash. using a cleaner such as the eSpares lime scale and detergent remover, and that just flushes the system through and makes sure that it's nice and clear for use over the Christmas period. And you can see how to use the lime scale and detergent remover in another eSpares video. Finally, it's time for the annual challenge of the Christmas lights. Now, because you haven't used these for quite a while, you'll need to get them out of the box and check and replace any bulbs that have failed, like this one, for example. Now, this old style of bulb is only good for about 500 hours, after which they're going to fail more frequently. And nothing is more annoying than setting them up in a display only to return a couple of days later and see that more bulbs have failed. So for that reason, it's much better to replace them with this new style LED bulb. Now, these are much tougher than the old style bulbs, and they're also good for up to 50,000 hours, so you'll get a lot more use out of them. Now, if you're planning to set your lights up outdoors where it's likely to be wet, make sure you do it safely using an RCD safety device, and that will prevent any accidental shocks that result from coming into contact with water on the lights. If you want to cut down on your power usage over the Christmas period, it's a good idea to use your lights in conjunction with a timer plug. Now, this can be set to turn the lights on and off automatically when required. Hopefully this video has helped to show you some of the ways you can avoid a Christmas nightmare in your home, and of course spares and accessories for your appliances, as well as lights, timers and RCDs being available on the eSpares website. Thanks for watching.